Imagine the worst scenario described in dozens of films about nuclear war. When the heads of states with nuclear weapons push those red buttons and hundreds of nuclear missiles rush to the largest cities, reducing them to radioactive ashes. One of the silos, from where a ballistic missile could fly towards the enemy, is located here on the territory of the base. Others are scattered for tens of kilometers around. This is what the so-called MLF looks like, a missile launch facility. Beneath this 120-ton concrete lid is a silo that once housed an intercontinental ballistic missile with nuclear warheads. It took less than 10 seconds to lift this colossus and launch a rocket. The RS-18s were based here, SS-19 Stiletto according to NATO classification. A missile with a launch weight of 105 tons could carry up to 6 warheads. Subsequently, silo-based topos were planned to, but never have been located here. Horrible things, the real horsemen of the apocalypse. Unfortunately, such gifts have so far arrived only at military test areas. But what if one of the countries of the Nuclear Nine launches such a package at another one? What happens in such a scenario? Powers with nuclear weapons are exchanging blows with each other, aiming at the main strategic targets, and the planet is plunging into a nuclear winter. However, some may think that the one who strikes first will remain the winner, wiping the enemy off the face of the Earth, and that the other one simply will be unable to retaliate. And it's really quite difficult to imagine a place where you can survive after a direct hit by a nuclear warhead. And not just survive, but also strike back. At a first glance, it may seem that I am walking through the territory of an ordinary disbanded military base, which are plentiful around the city. On top of that, this one is pretty worn out by time. But this one is completely different, a former military unit of the Strategic Missile Forces. The regiment that was stationed here was on combat duty to protect peace and life on Earth from 1966 until it was disbanded in 2008. If a mere mortal, or even more so a spy, even just tried to penetrate this territory, then he would simply be shot dead, without any investigation and trial, with a very high probability. This ruined building was a refrigeration center. There used to be a huge freezer here. I will demonstrate a little later what it was for. A dozen meters from the refrigeration center you can see a small and very inconspicuous hill covered with grass. But this is not just an uneven landscape. Under my feet is the cover of a silo that weighs several hundred tons. It is capable of withstanding a direct hit from a nuclear warhead. Under it is a unified command post, the heart of the rocket forces, the most important building in the area and the purpose of my visit here. Today we will find out what was once on the other side of the Russia's nuclear shield under the strictest secrecy. In simple words, people who used to serve here could, if necessary, launch nuclear missiles. However, this place is now completely abandoned. I'm standing in front of the airlock. There used to be 3 massive hermetic doors, weighing about a ton each. Behind them is a command post, but getting there was not so easy. To do this, it was necessary to enter a special code that changed every day, but if it was entered incorrectly, a group of submachine gunners would instantly appear here. UCP, Unified Command Post. Structurally, it is a monolithic 12-level fiberglass container with a length of 33 meters, a diameter of 3.3 meters and a weight of 121 tons. It is held by a suspension system and a standard 45-meter deep missile silo. Each level is a round room that contains machinery and equipment that reliably perform specialized functions in any kind of environmental conditions. At the very top of this container was the power supply system. The first and second levels are equipped with diesel generators. They are currently dismantled. At the third level, there was communication equipment. Level 4, an automatic control and monitoring system. 5, communication equipment. 6, 7 and 8, equipment for supplying power to all facilities of the UCP. 9 and 10, equipment for combat missile launching. 11, the command post itself with combat stations, remote control and automated combat control system panels and communications. On the last 12th, the deepest floor, there is a recreation room for the personnel on duty. Under the capsule itself, there were 120 huge alkaline batteries needed in case of failure of all other power systems. The roof of the silo of this command post, symbolically painted in sky blue, is not just a concrete lid. Inside it is a special insert made of highly iodized steel, with the addition of copper so that it cannot be torn apart. At the top layer is 10 tons of petroleum wax, which in the event of a nuclear explosion does not allow waves that can disable the equipment to pass through. Going back to the story about the refrigeration center that was located on the surface. These round holes in the wall used to hold the so-called LCAs, large cold accumulators. In the time of peace, with the help of the refrigeration center, 37 tons of ice were continuously generated here, and in the event of the destruction of the ground infrastructure, they cooled the equipment and they enriched the air with oxygen inside the command post for 45 days. That is how long the post could survive autonomously, being completely cut off from the outside world. Two 500 kilowatt generators on the first level and two 50 kilowatt on the second one. In the event of failure of all diesel engines, the batteries located under the command post were used. Triple safety. And it was like that with every system here. It used to be easy to move between the floors of the UCP using either stairs or the elevator on the outer side of the capsule. But these are now dismantled or stolen by metal hunters. So we have to go down using pretty rusty and rather dangerous external structures that were previously needed to service the command post. This is what the suspension that holds this huge capsule inside the silo looks like. Additionally, it rests on powerful steel cables, some of which have already been cut off by metal hunters. With a nuclear explosion on the surface, incredible seismic activity inevitably arises underground, and the suspension system is needed in order to dampen it. This can be compared to the shock absorber of a car going over uneven terrain. Outside everything is shaking, but you feel just a little rocking inside. Although a person I know, who served in such a place, said that they were taught to fasten to the seats while being hit and put pencils away, because it will shake even harder than in the strongest turbulence in an airplane. It is understandable. Just imagine that you are sitting at a depth of 40 meters and a nuclear bomb explodes just above you. But still, Soviet engineers calculated this suspension system in such a way that it is possible to survive an explosion and strike back. With the help of these compressed air tanks, diesel generators were started. They were located on the first 2 floors of the UCP, which are now dismantled. We've descended to the lower tiers of the command post. There is still a couple of floors with the remains of equipment below us, and then everything is flooded with groundwater, and it is not possible to go down below. At level -11 of the second from the bottom, in exactly the same room, 3 officers were on duty in shifts, who wielded ultimately the fate of the world. In that very place, there once was a control panel that had ability to launch nuclear missiles. Most likely, its remains rest there, to this day. Intercontinental ballistic missiles are a terrible force. But that's why they are called nuclear deterrence weapons. For as long as they exist, as long as such military units operate, there are people who serve in them, and they exist, and a lot of them. All of this minimizes the chances of a nuclear winter beginning on Earth. As long as there are nuclear weapon states, such places will always exist. Some will become obsolete and disband like this one. Others, on the contrary, modernize. So while you are watching this video, know that somewhere deep underground, a man is sitting, ready, by the order, at any moment to press that very red button, which is actually colored gray. You watched Chronicles of the Forgotten. I am Cat. See you soon.